Yeah, it looks like it's about the right time. Time for another tutorial. Argentina may have had a hard time taking the Falkland Islands back from the British, but in this video, I'll teach you how to conquer the entire world as Brazil in Hearts of Iron 4. Join me as your professor slash Peaky Blinders slash train conductor guide on how to conquer the world as Brazil. First things first, you're going to be playing on historical mode. You can try non-historical, but for me, it was annoying, especially whenever Portugal was monarchist and decided to just arbitrarily lower your stability over time without you having the ability to do anything about it. So play on historical, and as Brazil, you're going to go fascist. If you go communist as Brazil, you can take all of South America and core them just the same as you can with fascism. However, you have to go into a civil war, and so it's a little bit not as fast as going down the fascist path would be. The first national focus you're going to be taking is Tribunal de Seguridade. Here's a picture of it, and work with the Integralists. You're going to want to save your political power, and then after you take those first two national focuses, spend it immediately on getting a fascist propagandist, and then every single time you get another 20 political power, you're going to spend it on conducting fascist rallies within each of your provinces to build up your fascist support. After you take those first two focuses and you're working on doing the fascist rallies, you're going to be going down the economic path to get rid of the cacao. They're going to be sort of like a plague on your country until you get rid of them by spending political power, kind of like whatever sickness Bolsonaro has that keeps on putting him in the hospital. Now, at the time that you start getting rid of the cacao, you should have enough fascist or non-aligned support to take the Cohen Plan focus, after which you need to continue to build fascist support within your country, and a whopping 70% fascist support, which is quite a lot. So while you're waiting to reach that level, that bar of 70%, you're going to go down the fascist tree. You're going to take the focus to take out or annex Uruguay, as well as reject cosmopolitanism and for the fatherland, national focuses. After which you can either do dissolvimento, which I recommend to help improve the Brazilian economy, which is pretty crap at the beginning of the game, as well as maybe one or two of the military focuses that help build some org for your infantry divisions. Also, during this time, you're going to want to be trading a lot on the international market to build up your infantry equipment stockpiles, as well as developing and building your intelligence agency. You're going to want to have at least 2 agents before you proceed down Brazil Integral, which is what you need 70% fascist support for. Other than that, it's kind of a waiting game until you get the 70% fascist support. You should be able to get it by about early to mid 1938. After you take that focus, you're going to want to do a couple things. One is build good relations with the UK, France, and the Netherlands, so you can try and get the Guyanas later. You're also going to want to start pressuring them diplomatically with your spies, especially France and the UK. Netherlands I wouldn't worry about as much. And then you're going to want to start building up your army to huge levels. I recommend just spamming out single width divisions and then increasing your manpower rapidly, because you need at least 200,000 manpower to start conquering South America, or to at least take the focus to start conquering South America. After you take that focus, you can shrink your army back down based on however much infantry equipment you manage to acquire. After you take the focus domination of the Americas, the next focus you're going to be taking is the Guyana's focus, where you're going to try and pressure the colonizers to give back the Guyanas that are totally Brazil's, whatever. Don't worry if they say no. 1 or 2, maybe all 3 will say yes to giving back the territory, but it's not a big deal if they say no. You'll get it back once you take out the UK later, which is going to be pretty soon. At this point, you should have at least 24 full divisions on the border with Bolivia. They will be your first target on your step to world conquest, other than Uruguay, but they barely mattered. You'll take the focus to conquer Bolivia, immediately declare war on them, and you should be able to take them out fairly easily if you focus your troops on just pushing towards the capital. Next will be Paraguay. They'll either choose to become your puppet, or you'll have to declare war on them. Annoyingly enough, they're super hard to kill after the update. So I would focus your entire 24 divisions on half of the border with Paraguay and just blitz right towards the capital of Paraguay, Asuncion. The next step is Argentina. This will be the biggest and hardest step for world conquest other than taking out Nazi Germany, believe it or not. They have as many, if not more, divisions than you at better strength, as well as a bigger navy, so you can't just naval invade them all along their coastline. You have a smaller front to engage them on. As long as you take out Bolivia and Paraguay, you kind of even the odds a little bit. I recommend also building up a small force of cavalry, about 10 divisions worth of cavalry, and focusing them on the point where you want to break through. That way, when the war starts and you conduct small breakthroughs, you can exploit it with cavalry to take the supply hubs in the enemy's rear, as well as surround their front defensive lines, or at the very least, cause them to spread out more. I've found huge amounts of success using this strategy. You're gonna wanna take out Argentina. I think it took me less than 150 days. By the time you finish off Argentina, it should be mid to late 1939. Don't panic, because none of the countries you're gonna be fighting against are gonna join the Allies until later, mid to the end of 1940. So you have some time, but not a lot of time, so you gotta get your groove on. After you take out Argentina, don't forget to steal their navy. After which, Chile should be a piece of cake. Don't forget their navy either. They have both pretty sizable navies that will be extremely helpful. Now, at this point, here is I recommend where you do the Panama push focus to get war goals on all of the countries, Panama and south of Panama. The only country that I would say you would have a challenge with is Peru. They have a lot of mountains with the Andes and kind of like an extraordinarily amount of divisions, like more than you would think. So for all of these countries in the Andes and up towards Venezuela, you're gonna want to combine naval invasions with ground invasions to sort of split them apart and to go straight for the capitals of these countries so you can quickly take them. I recommend doing Peru. Then Ecuador is guaranteed by Colombia, so Ecuador and Colombia at the same time, and then Venezuela. At this point in my run, the UK was guaranteeing the independence of Panama. So I used this as an opportunity to prepare for my invasion of the UK. As you're conquering through South America, one, be on the lookout for the UK guaranteeing independence. For me, they didn't guarantee anyone until I got to Panama, at which point they guaranteed their independence. And then two, take the focus so that you can core all of South America. Focus is called América del Sur, with my crappy South American accent. This will allow you, as you take countries, any Latin American country, you can core them, including and up to Mexico, Cuba, Dominican Republic, I think Haiti as well, but I won't worry about those as much. Back to discussing how we're going to take out the UK. You're going to want to have at least 60 divisions, and by this point, after you've conquered all of the South American countries south of Panama, your navy should be about 90 ships big, which is plenty big enough to naval invade the United Kingdom. Also, the year should be around mid to late 1940. So we have about 6 to 8 months before the United States joins the war and messes everything up. You're gonna have all 60 of your divisions set onto ports, and you're gonna get military access with Germany. The devs don't want you getting military access until you declare war on the United Kingdom. Once you declare war, you're gonna have all your divisions go straight to German ports, and you're gonna follow my tutorial that I did a couple weeks back about how to naval invade the United Kingdom. you're going to allow yourself to sort of bleed out your troops and armies here as you're fighting against the United Kingdom on the home islands. So that way you can build up war participation. Don't forget that don't forget that the British Empire is everywhere. They're going to try and naval invade you from the Falkland Islands. They're going to try and attack you from the Caribbean islands. Don't forget about the Netherlands and their Antilles Islands off the coast of Venezuela. So there's a lot of different areas where they can try and come at you onto your South American territory. All you have to do is contain them. You don't need to take them out. You could potentially use them to help build up your war participation. At the same time as you're invading the home islands, you're doing your conquering, and before you take out London, you're going to want to justify and declare war on, at the very least, Mexico, Panama, possibly Guatemala, maybe even also the Dominican Republic. Declare war on all of those countries, and they will join the allies against you, and you won't even have to fight them. The minute you take out the United Kingdom, you'll be able to annex all of them. In the peace conference, however, it will be a struggle because you will be fighting against Germany and Italy for all these different countries. So I recommend during the peace conference, you focus holding on to at least a little bit of the United Kingdom. I would say like a couple of the southern ports, maybe Scotland, hold on to those. Definitely take Canada and Mexico and all other Latin American countries that you can get your hands on. So that way you can core them and get more manpower. Why? Because our next target after the United Kingdom is going to be the United States. If you've been following my advice and coring all the South American countries like I told you, you should have as many factories as the United States at this point. You are a major fighting power. You should also have probably double or triple the amount of manpower the United States has. So you're going to want to greatly expand your army and have at least 48 divisions on the United States-Mexico border and probably about 72 divisions on the northeast corridor with about 24 split between Buffalo and Detroit and the other 48 focused towards Vermont and Maine and New Hampshire. So that way you can blitz down towards Boston. Leave a couple guys on this little neck of land in Canada to hold off the United States as they stupidly push into Canada, but you don't need to put divisions on every single border between Vancouver to Detroit. It's just a waste of manpower. Make sure that you also have some guys focused on the Panama Canal, so you can just take that real quick at the beginning of the game. It really messes the United States up, taking the Panama Canal. You're gonna justify and try and take them out as fast as possible before Japan can really get into the war. So before late 1941, you should be rushing the United States. It'll stop them from being able to build up as much good strength divisions, and then they'll get distracted when Japan joins the war. For me, it was kind of a piece of cake once I finally managed to push past like Boston and New York. At that point, the United States divisions really get spread out. You can easily encircle them, and you can also take LA really quickly from the Mexico border. So they kind of give up. I think for me, they gave up by the end of 1942. So not too bad. However, during my peace conference, I really messed up and I literally gave some land to the Japanese. So that became a problem for me later. Next goal is taking out the Axis powers. This will be, besides Argentina, your biggest obstacle for world conquest. The German divisions are always very strong by this point, even if they're taking on the Soviets on their other border. The best time to declare war on Germany is immediately after the Germans declare war on the Soviet Union. They commit to Operation Barbarossa. They're really going to be focused on trying to get to Moscow and Leningrad as fast as they can. So when you declare war, quickly take the rest of the United Kingdom home islands away from the Germans, as well as simultaneously conduct a naval invasion onto the German-held French territory, either in Normandy or Brittany. The Germans aren't going to really try and defend super hard from the onset, so you need to move quickly to take as much land as you can and move towards Germany. Because you're not going to be able to move much further past that unless you've been playing on non-historical or somehow the Germans have weakened themselves. What's going to happen is you're going to set up a defensive line, and as you can see right here, the Germans are going to try and push you back and bleed themselves white, pushing onto your defensive line. So I kind of waited around until 1943. You really got to watch out for the Vichy-France border, because the Germans will just call them into the war randomly. So leave at least, I would say, 24 to 48 divisions on that border with Vichy-France. Now, by the time they start running out of supply and they're getting to the gates of Moscow and Stalingrad, that's when you can really have your guys push. And every single time that you're starting to run out of manpower, you can just start conquering these little countries in South America like Nicaragua, Guatemala, Costa Rica. Gives you an extra 500,000 manpower with each country you take in core. Kind of ridiculous, kind of cheese, but sorry, Germany. Brazil is stronger than you, you know. As you push more and more into the heart of Germany, that's when the Germans will become more and more disorganized. So make sure you keep your guys on an aggressive stance so you can build up more war participation than the Soviet Union can. Because our next goal is going to be the Soviet Union. After you finish the war with Germany and Italy, because you're going to be pushing into Italy as well, make sure that you prioritize taking the land closest to the Soviet Union for your base of operations. Because immediately after the war is over, you're going to justify in the Soviet Union and you're going to push against them as well. Because this is when they're going to be at their weakest. If you decide to wait and build up your combat power, the Soviet Union becomes a defensive powerhouse. So you need to take them out quickly. Immediately move for Moscow, Leningrad, and Stalingrad. Try and build a collaboration government, but if you can't, then just quickly take the supply hubs on the Ural Mountains and continue to push your guys east, and eventually the Soviet Union will capitulate. Other than that, the Soviet Union shouldn't be too much of a challenge. They've already gotten pummeled by Germany, and now they're about to get pummeled by you. The very last roadblock on your world conquest is East Asia. You need to take out now the Chinese and the Japanese. You're already fighting the Japanese, so declaring war on the Chinese isn't that much of a next step. And they're also still at war with the Japanese and are pretty weak. So the best place to invade them from is not from the Soviet Union, but from the south, from Indochina. So kind of like Vietnam, Thailand, and India. Invade from the south up through there towards Yunnan and Guangxi Click. After that, the Chinese capitulate pretty quickly. At this point, the only country that's left that stands in your way is Japan. As long as you've been stealing the navies of Germany, the United States, a little bit of the UK, you should have almost double or triple the size of the navy that Japan has. I think at this point I had over 400 or 500 ships at my disposal. So even though I'm not good with Navy, I had enough to just throw them around and just get naval supremacy everywhere. You're gonna want to naval invade Taiwan or Formosa, and then Okinawa, and then Nagasaki. Your main naval invasion landing point in Japan is going to be Nagasaki. The minute you take that, the Japanese are just about as weak as the UK is. You can easily push across the Japanese home islands, and boom, that's it. That's the last major obstacle that was standing in your way. The rest of your game is now just going to be slowly justifying and taking all of these smaller countries that are easily taken out. Especially because by this point, for me, it was like 1945, 1946. So I created a lot of belts of irradiated cobalt to secure my victories, especially in places like Cuba and Yemen and yeah, sorry. But yeah, the nukes really make the naval invasions in Cuba easier, for real talk. Alrighty, after that, that's it. World Conquest is Brasilia. Thank you guys for watching this tutorial. I hope you found it much easier to be given direction this way rather than be specifically told how to exactly do every single step on the world conquest. If you really want that, I suggest you look at YouTubers like Bittersteel. They go way into detail and they have more time for that stuff. I don't. So this has been another lesson from Professor Clegg. See you next time. Hope you have a nice day.
Sir, want an apple?
Yeah, thanks.